extremely upsetting to me is in 2023, they had a number of 16 missing foster children that weren't returned home. And now in 2024, the number was 166. So something has happened in the past 2 years that has made it either easier to lose foster children, or the follow through or the tracking of these foster children is not being properly done. So we're missing a large amount of children. And I feel like this should be getting attention, that these children are missing. And that accountability and oversight should be happening as well.
It's Bailey Templeton. She is a potential candidate for the Illinois Statehouse. I chatted with her last week about numbers she received from the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services through a public records request of the number of missing children that DCFS tracks. It's Illinois in Focus Daily, with you each and every weekday morning. I'm Greg Bishop, editor of The Center Square. Go to thecentersquare.com, get the latest headlines in your inbox by clicking on newsletter. You'll see the top story there. The Illinois Child Welfare Agency to update number of missing children. And they've been working on this story for a couple of weeks now. I have a pending Freedom of Information Act request to the DCFS that they've delayed. So you're supposed to get FOIA requests within 5 days. And all I asked for was the number of missing children from 2017 to like 2025 by year. And that number, they weren't able to get to me within 5 days. We'll talk a little bit more about that, and I'll also share with you a lot of what Bailey Templeton had to say in her efforts to try to get these numbers as well. But if you go to the website and read the story, you'll read the lead. The number of missing foster children on the radar of the state's Child Welfare Agency will be clarified this week as a potential Illinois Statehouse candidate looks for answers. Public records obtained by Bailey Templeton from the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services show in 2023, 16 children did not return to either previous placements or a new one. That number jumped nearly 1,000% to 166 missing children in 2024. Now, I reached out and contacted an agency spokesperson who told me that the numbers are, quote, not completely accurate, and updated numbers were not immediately available through a public records request. Separate open records requests from both Templeton and myself for updated numbers from the agency were due Friday, but the agency delayed the release, saying, quote, the requested records have not been located in the course of routine search, and additional efforts are being made to locate them. So the numbers themselves are missing, according to the DCFS FOIA officer. They said the records were due to be reported and produced in 5 business days, October 24th, and that was Friday. The FOIA officer says that they've requested the documents from the necessary division and still working to gather documents. And the FOIA officer is still working to review documents as well. So last week I talked with Bailey Templeton. She shared with us some of her thoughts on how she's gotten to this point. And here's what she had to say.
What I'm trying to accomplish here is to bring awareness to a situation that most people aren't even aware of in this state, which is the missing children in Illinois foster care and what's happening with them, and kind of what the chain of command is on finding them and if that's being followed. At this point, as of FOIA responses that I've just received in the past few months, it was listed that 166 Illinois foster children went missing in 2024 and were not returned home or to their prior placements with the system. When I received these numbers, I was extremely shocked, because that's just an astounding number of children that are missing, first off. Second off, missing from state care. So I sent in further FOIA requests to the Attorney General's office, as well as the Office of the Executive Inspector General, asking them if they had any communications or agreements, or if they had any records at all of these missing children, and they had nothing. They provided me with absolutely nothing. So it appears that the follow through for finding these children either is not being done properly, or that nobody is holding anybody accountable for the missing children here in Illinois foster care. What's extremely upsetting to me is in 2023, they had a number of 16 missing foster children that weren't returned home. And now in 2024, the number was 166. So something has happened in the past 2 years that has made it either easier to lose foster children, or the follow through or the tracking of these foster children is not being properly done. So we're missing a large amount of children. And I feel like this should be getting attention, that these children are missing. And that accountability and oversight should be happening as well.
Now, that's a 166 missing children that she got in her FOIA request from DCFS. That's a nearly 1,000% increase from the 16 that was the year before. And before that, it was like 4, and then there were like 2 missing the year before that. And it was kind of consistent for several years, 2, 2, 2, and then 4, and then 6, and then 16, and then 166. So clearly something's happening here. What are those numbers? Again, we at the Center Square requested to verify the numbers that Templeton got, but our initial FOIA request was not granted or fulfilled within the 5 days that's required by law. They requested another 5-day extension, which by law they have the ability to do. But I did say I want the numbers. I'm not looking for, detailed communications, and they don't have to go and get people's text messages and emails and scour those. I'm just looking for the spreadsheet that they have showing the number of missing children just to verify those numbers. Well, DCFS saying that they couldn't locate those numbers immediately to fulfill that FOIA request. And also, they said that they want to make sure that they put out the most accurate data. So you'll see from the story that you can find at thecentersquare.com, spokesperson for the agency said that they want to ensure that they release the, quote, most accurate information and that there is a, quote, narrative around the data to be publicly released. The agency noted it has a child intake recovery unit. An entire division, they say, is dedicated to assisting caseworkers in locating missing youth. Spokesperson also said they do track the youth in care that do go missing by where they're placed, how many days they're missing, and the dates. Templeton says that she talked with DCFS, at least one person in particular, and asked about the process of reporting missing children. Here's some of what she said was her communication with the agency.
I actually just called them this morning. And I asked them what their chain of command would be. Well, I called the advocacy office to be specific. And I said, I was just curious if you had an office for like child location and support unit, which they have in a lot of other states, but not here in Illinois. The woman on the phone seemed to be very nervous about the question and said she needed to speak with her supervisor and find out more. And after a few minutes of me being held on hold, they got back on the phone and they mentioned to me that there is actually no office for oversight on these missing children. And the protocol that she's familiar with is that they should have the foster parent report to the caseworker. The caseworker would then report to the police, and the police would report to the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. There seems to be a lack of accountability here. There seems to be that she doesn't even know. The woman I spoke to, I'm not going to name her. I didn't even ask her name. I just wanted to gauge the situation. She doesn't even know what the actual chain of command should be if a child goes missing in the system. Now, I could have been a parent calling about my missing child in the system, and she would have had nothing to offer me. No explanation of who I could call to contact to find these missing children. And that seems to be a situation that I continuously run into. There needs to be an audit of the system, of course, and it needs to be done third party. That could be one thing for transparency. If it's done within the system, things could be messed up intentionally or not. But there needs to be an outside audit that comes into the system to look at what's going on with these children, see if these children that are missing are receiving any state or federal benefits, where that money is going, things of that such. And specifically, we need to find these children. We need cases. We need to know their ages, what counties they came out of. This needs to be public information that we're missing this many children.
Templeton, you heard there say that she wasn't able to glean if they had a specialized units, but the agency did say when I communicated back and forth with them last week that they do have a child intake recovery unit. And they also say that they do collect the information on, from which kind of field office these children may have been missing from or around. So we're going to get some of that information. And are the numbers that Templeton received through FOIA that DCFS put out to Templeton, why are those numbers not correct? And are we going to get correct numbers? And what do you mean by mostly not accurate? So is 166 mostly not accurate, or what kind of data set goes into that? Again, these are questions that we're still looking for, and DCFS says they're going to release those numbers They just want to make sure that they're the most accurate data that we can get. But they already released some numbers to Templeton. So it's kind of interesting to see all this come together here. But Templeton talked about an audit. And go to the story at thecentersquare.com. They did do a recent audit. The Illinois Auditor General did a management audit. Back in 2014, they looked at the search for missing children and the process for DCFS. And they had a bunch of different recommendations. But in an update review of that management audit in 2024, one particular recommendation was partially implemented, and it said that 71% of instances that the auditors checked where a child went missing, the initial forms could not be provided by the department to ensure accuracy. So clearly, even as of late as last year, according to the most recent Auditor General's audit of their missing children protocols, they couldn't get the accurate information then. It said Department Procedure 329, locating and returning missing, runaway, and abducted children provides the documentation of supervisor reviews through the submission of CFS 1014 form. As a result, the department being unable to provide 43 initial CFS 1014 forms noted above, the auditors also could not test documentation of supervisor reviews. So you got to say, I mean, they're saying 43 here, and auditors, they don't necessarily look at they do like spot checks, right? They grab a handful and they say, okay, we're going to spot check all of these. So they said 43 initial CFS forms. They couldn't find those things. DCFS, they said when a child goes missing, the matter is reported to local law enforcement. Caseworkers provide as much identifying information as possible to include fingerprints if available, and they contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, among other steps. But go back to that audit, and it says in another partial implementation of a recommendation, the Auditor General's office found that in only 15, again, that's 15% of instances where a child went missing, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children were notified within 3 hours when a child was reported missing. Again, 15%. That means 85% of the time, DCFS did not report to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in a timely fashion within 3 hours. That's according to audits. Templeton says that she has talked to some legislators, but she feels that much more attention is going to need to be put on this.
I have spoken with a couple of legislators in the past few years. I have traveled to Springfield. I've also been in Washington, D.C. concerning issues with Illinois DCFS, and across the nation, I've filed FOIAs in all 50 states to find out how many missing foster children are in all 50 states. And the responses have been different in every state. I'd say that Maryland gave me a very thorough recount of 990 missing foster kids in the past 5 years. But something that they did that Illinois did not do is they told me which county these children came missing from, which proves that over 50% of their missing children came from the same area. I would like for Illinois DCFS to have that type of insight and provide that type of oversight to all of us to know if this is a systematic issue, if it's all these children are coming from one area. But no, in regards to legislators, I have not gone in depth with them on this conversation. I feel like public awareness is the biggest step, and then maybe legislators will join on with us in this fight.
Templeton says that she's going to continue raising this issue, especially as a potential Statehouse candidate. She is running as a Republican for the Illinois House, and she's expected to file petition signatures today, Monday, at the State Board of Elections. They got a week-long filing period for the 2026 primary, so we'll see what happens there. And she says this is a major issue as to why she's running for office.
I am actually running for the Illinois House of Representatives here in the 94th District on the basis of parental rights and medical freedom, and kind of bringing awareness to the reform that's desperately needed inside of the system that receives millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in state taxes and hundreds of millions of dollars in federal taxes. So I think that there needs to be audits all across the board, not just with Illinois DCFS. I think that the Attorney General's office should also have some accountability for where these children are, as well as the Inspector General's office. I just think that the more we push forward with this story, whether I need to run for office to get the story out or not, the more important it is that considering there are 166 children, that could be every night, wondering if anybody's even looking for them. It's just absolutely heartbreaking to me, and I will go to great lengths to make sure these children are found.
We'll be watching this story, and as I said, they're expected to release updated or clarified numbers today, this week. We will take a look and bring you the latest, and also get more reaction, say, from the members of the Legislative Audit Commission. Are they going to be interested in seeing exactly why it went from 16 in 2023 to 166 in 2024? Is that really the number of missing children? Is it a Scribner's error, as we hear at the Statehouse sometimes, or is there something more to that story? We'll keep you posted, all right? It's with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop with you each and every weekday morning. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and wake up with us here for Illinois in Focus Daily.